Welcome back. Of course, we're talking COVID-19. In the midst of all of that, we're reopening schools at many different levels. But the question is, how exactly are we going to be coping? And what is the scene like across the length and breadth of Ghana? As we started the show, we did intimate to you we're going to interact with parents, students, and indeed, we're going to cross over to the regions to find out what exactly is happening in the different regions, what is happening in the institutions, and what we can glean from that moving forward. So we're going to have an interaction on that beat shortly, crossing over to the regions to find out what exactly has been happening. But even before we start with that, let me intimate, for those of you who missed it last night, that His Excellency the President has sounded the warning that indeed, if we do not get proactive, if we do not change the way we're approaching this virus, COVID-19, we might have to go back to a lockdown situation. I bet that's not what any of us would want. But what do we do about it? That's the question to be posed. So we ready ourselves to cross over and actually interact with some of our regional correspondents and what they have to share. But before we get into that, let's find out what His Excellency the President had to say yesterday in that 20-second address.
After I last spoke to you, I promise I'll do my very best to live up to your expectations. I'm coming into your homes tonight with some rather unpleasant news. When I delivered update number 21 some 2 weeks ago, I urged all of us to continue adhering to the enhanced hygiene and mask wearing protocols that have served us well and which led us to the situation where we were witnessing a gradual decline in the number of active cases. However, since that time, we have seen an upsurge in the number of active cases, from a little over 900 to 1,924. Our COVID-19 treatment centers have gone from having 0 patients to now being 4 because of the upsurge in infections. Particularly worrying is the fact that the Ghana Health Service is recording on the average 200 new cases of COVID infections daily. The number of patients requiring hospitalization and intensive care is rising. The number of severe cases, which stood at 18 a week ago, has increased sharply to 120. 2 weeks ago, there was no critical case. We now have 33 in our treatment facilities. Again, according to statistics from the Ghana Health Service, the considerable number of persons who are severely ill are surprisingly relatively youthful persons with no previous underlying health conditions. The number of confirmed deaths has increased sadly from 338 persons to 352 within the period. Recent genomic sequencing undertaken by our scientists have established that some arriving passengers tested positive for new variants of COVID-19. These passengers have all been isolated. Furthermore, work is ongoing to determine the presence and extent of spread of the new variants in the general population. Detailed investigations of the cases indicate that apart from arriving passengers at our airport who tested positive, infected persons have recent histories of attending parties, weddings, end-of-year office programs, family get-togethers, and funerals. At these gatherings, most of them abandoned the use of the masks and were engaged in actions that led to them contracting the virus. Fellow Ghanaians, at this current rate, whereby 13 out of the 16 regions have recorded active cases, our health infrastructure will be overwhelmed if the situation continues. It will severely undermine the efforts government is making to revitalize the economy and put our nation back onto the path of progress and prosperity following the ravages of the pandemic. On 7th January, as I said, I swore to, and I quote, dedicate myself to the service and well-being of the people of the Republic of Ghana and to do right to all manner of persons, unquote. It is my duty to protect lives and livelihoods. In furtherance of this, I've instructed the Inspector General of Police to direct officers, men and women of the police service to ensure the rigorous enforcement of the law on mask wearing at all public places and in public transport. They are also to ensure the closure of all nightclubs, pubs, cinemas and beaches that may be operating in defiance of the law. They will be assisted by the other security agencies if need be. Persons in marketplaces, workplaces, and operators of public transport must conduct their activities in accordance with the hygiene and safety protocols. The wearing of masks in these places is mandatory. Regulatory agencies will undertake random checks to ensure conformity with COVID-19 rules. Should any facility or institution fail to comply with these directives, its activities will be immediately prohibited and appropriate sanctions applied. It is important that I remind all Ghanaians that severe punishments exist on our statute books for persons breaking the law on the mandatory wearing of masks. Should anyone be arrested by the security agencies disregarding this directive, that person will be dealt with strictly in accordance with law. We do not want to go back to the days of partial lockdowns, which had a negative impact on our economy and on our way of life. But should that become necessary, that is, should the number of active cases continue to increase at the current rate, I will have no option but to reimpose these restrictions because it is better to be safe than to be sorry. So together, let us all ensure that we respect the protocols. Government is intensifying its strategy of enhanced 3 Ts, i.e. tracing, testing, and treating, to allow us to identify infected persons, isolate them, and treat them. A considerable number of contact tracers are being mobilized to follow up on contacts of all who test positive. All laboratories, public and private, must supply in real time data on all persons tested on the common platform established by the Ghana Health Service. There will be sanctions against laboratories who fail to comply. We've also provided additional logistics, including vehicles, to the Ghana Health Service for the supervision and monitoring of asymptomatic cases being managed from home. Additionally, government is reactivating available treatment and isolation facilities across the country in anticipation of any further increase in infections. The provision of adequate medicines, equipment, and personal protective equipment to enable health workers attend to home-based patients is being effected. Fellow Ghanaians, as our children in kindergarten, primary, junior high school, SHS2 and SHS3 resume school from tomorrow, I wish to reiterate that government has taken the required steps to ensure their safety in school. Heads of institutions, as well as their teachers, have undergone the requisite orientation on guidelines for school reopening during COVID-19 to enable them assist with compliance of students with the protocols. I've been encouraged by the preparations being made by many schools, in some cases with the support of their old Students Association and PTAs, in anticipation of the return on Monday. On our part, government has also undertaken the fumigation and disinfection of schools and the provision of sanitizers, masks, liquid soaps, Veronica buckets, rolls of tissue paper, face shields for learners and staff with hearing impairments, and gloves for caregivers and attendants to schools across the country. All senior high schools have been mapped to medical facilities across the country so that any outbreak of the disease in any such school can be duly contained. Suspected cases in primary and junior high schools will be managed by district health teams through the school health program and the COVID-19 rapid response teams. The world is facing a learning crisis, a crisis that is further worsening inequalities in access to education.
And so that was the president from the 22nd address delivered only yesterday. And if you missed out, just some takeaways: 13 out of our 16 regions with infections, about 200 daily cases, and an increment of about 1,000 cases between, the last address, the 21st, and this one. A lot of cause for worry. But as we talk about the reopening of schools and the dynamics to consider in these COVID-19 times, we're going to be discoursing with Thomas Musa, General Secretary of NAT. He joins us for a conversation. We also have Philip Boateng Mensah, President for the Conference of Directors of Private Pre-Tertiary Schools. Now, they have quite a list of issues that they would also, like to bring to the fore on the back of the reopening of schools. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us on the AM show.
Good morning.
Great. So let me start with you, Mr. Musa. As we talk about going back to school, the matters to consider are many. And let's start from the preparedness of the institutions. So far, from what you've seen, we've been given assurances by the president, by various bodies that indeed we will be ready today. But from what you've seen thus far, what is your perspective on this matter?
Thank you very much. And good morning to your good self, your viewers, and to our teachers and together with the students who will be going to school today. I think that it's very, very important that we've been discussing these issues for all this period. And today is the day that they are going to school. In fact, I am preparing to visit quite a number of schools to see what is happening. And so we are hoping and believing that all the things that we had discussions on and the protocols that we were told that will be put in place, coupled with what the president said last night, it is our hope and belief that we will ensure that the school environment is secured, that the teaching and learning environment teaching and learning can go on smoothly. And I was really excited about the tough way the president spoke last night, telling us that we are not yet out. Things are getting bad, but if we go back to do the right things we were doing in the past, if we go on to them, all things being equal, we'll be safe and the schools can go on without any challenge. Because anything that happens in the school will certainly affect parents, old men, old women, and children back home. So we need to ensure that what all the preparations that have been put in place today must be put into practice. So I'll be going around to check, and I want to believe that the things that we are told, we will see them happening. That is what I want to say for now.
Okay, so that is to say that up to this point in time, of course, there were engagements pointing to the fact that prior to today, some institutions had taken stock of the logistics needed to ensure that the protocols are followed. Have you not followed any of that? Are you waiting for today, when the rollout is happening, to be able to conduct any monitoring? Is that what you're suggesting, Mr. Musa?
No, we followed up. We followed up. For example, the fumigation or the disinfection of the schools are things that we've seen all over the place that is ongoing. And aside that one, the issue of the face masks, the Veronica buckets, and all the thermometer guns and the PPEs, among other matters, they are all going. But it is one thing having the thing going, and it is also another thing seeing the things in the schools. So once we have seen the things going, it is very important that we go to the enterprise level, which is the school where the teaching and learning will take place, to see for our eyes whether or not the things are in the school, so that we cannot say that, yes, teaching and learning can go on. We can also be assured that the teaching and learning environment is secured. And that will also allay the fears of parents, that certainly all the promises that were made and also all the PPEs that were deployed, they are in the schools. And that is why we all need to go there and see what is happening. And we also encourage the media to also follow up, to check whether all the PPEs are in the schools. It's very, very important to all of us, for all of us to get involved.
And that is going to be a collaborative work that we're going to be doing together with you to ensure that indeed the right things are done, and where there needs to be, some exposés on the wrong things being done, that those are also brought to bear. But before I move over, let me just come back to you, Mr. Musa, on this beat. How prepared are your teachers, the Ghana National Association of Teachers? How prepared do your members feel ahead of this? I'm not just talking about, having access to what is needed in these COVID-19 times. It's been a while since some of them taught. What are the sort of preparations emotionally, physically, in terms of the coursework, in terms of the syllabi? How prepared are your members for this reopening?
Please, can you repeat? The line was breaking, so
your membership, the Ghana National Association of Teachers, I just want to find out from you, how prepared are your members so far? I've heard pockets of complaints in some quarters about not enough engagement with regard to this reopening and all of that. How prepared are the teachers, those who are going to be delivering training as they go back to school?
Our members are fully aware. Regarding this, as for the challenges, I've told you already, it is one thing telling people that we are going to deploy the PPEs. It's another thing also seeing it in the schools. Right. And so informing them, they are well informed. But regarding having the things in the school, that is why we are acting. And we ourselves, we need to follow up to check whether the things are in the schools. And if the things are not there, certainly we need to bring it to the attention of the duty bearers. That look, we cannot take this thing for granted. Rightly so, like the president said, that we all need to take the measures to ensure that each and every one is safe. And so the duty bearers will certainly have to be called upon. Wherever we go and we see that, look, the PPEs are not there, we will call upon the duty bearers. And so do we also ask the media and all stakeholders, let us all take interest in this. It is not an issue where one person will get it done. No, let us all get involved. We are talking about life and death. It could be your mother, it could be your father, it could be your sister. Look, the child going to school, you might not be directly related to that particular child. But if the child goes to catch the COVID and bring it, if you listen to the testimonies of people, it is one way or the other. They got into contact with somebody and suddenly they got it. Some of them have died. Some of them are in intensive care unit. That is a challenge. So we need to ensure that we leave no one behind. Let us all ensure that the schools we go and...
I suspect there might be a problem once more with the line of Mr. Musa. We'll try to reconnect with him via Zoom. Was I hearing you wrapping up, Mr. Musa? Well, it appears the line is frozen a bit. But let's move on to interact with Mr. Mensah, President of the Conference of Directors of Private Pre-Tertiary Schools. Now, you've come out with a statement, and in it you talk about a number of things, the hindrances facing you, the private enterprises, who also have to reopen at this point in time. You talk about the financial burden and all of that. Now, why exactly do you feel aggrieved? Was there not sufficient consultation as far as your grouping is concerned? And what are your peculiar grievances that you want to highlight in this release?
All right. Thank you very much. Grateful for your time and good morning to your listeners. Yeah, I think point of correction here. We are not aggrieved. We are not aggrieved. We are very well prepared for the reopening. And we really appreciate the statement that His Excellency the President made. that, we all have to be careful, okay? The issue that the statement seeks to address is the complaint that is on the airwaves and in town that school fees have been adjusted upwards, and there is so much hue and cry from parents. That is the issue that we want to provide some highlights or kind of education for parents to appreciate. Because, like we all know, with COVID, things are not going to be business as usual. Schools have closed for about a year, and with the reopening, and for private schools, there is so much need for funds to ensure that the necessary protocols to ensure safe school environment for teaching and learning are instituted. This calls for money, and the private sector business operator doesn't have money elsewhere than from the school fees. Even if, having closed down for about a year, you raise some loans to do that, you would have to repay. And this will call for readjustment of fees. Okay? So all the things that need to be done to ensure safe school environment are the basis that informed the upward adjustment of school fees. So we are pleading with parents to bear with us. Some parents have kind of, have had it rough with their schools, that they were not consulted. And that is a bit baffling because the fixing of school fees in a private educational institution is for the school owners. It's for the school owners. Parents are stakeholders. We respect that. But when it comes to fixing of school fees, the school proprietor would have to look at other indicators and the standards they are pursuing to fix the pricing.
In considering, let me, pardon my interjection here. In considering the standards and all those things you talk about, are you also considering the pocket of the ordinary parent who has also suffered, been battered by COVID-19, maybe has lost his or her job, or maybe is just trying to get his or her business back? Are you considering all of that? Because I have seen some of the fees from some institutions, I cannot mention which ones, and they are on the high side. And some parents have reached out to, us complaining, lamenting that these are too high, especially as we still are in the midst of COVID-19. Are you taking stock of that as well?
Yeah, thank you very much for raising this point. You see, your question is just like asking a five-star hotel, okay, to reduce its price and standards to meet the pocket of customers because we are going through hardship. Every private business operator has an objective. You don't lower standards because things are bad. You want to maintain your status quo. Okay? So in that process, let us all understand that in that process, you may have to, if your pocket is not good, you may have to look elsewhere because you no longer would be able to meet what you would have wished for. For example, if I am sleeping in a five-star hotel, that has been my regular routine, and things have changed, I cannot go to the hotel and tell them that things are bad, so review your prices. I need to look elsewhere. And in fact, my brother, let me tell you, government in its generosity has brought down school fees in the public schools to capitation level. You virtually pay nothing. So when things are bad, and you insist that the private school operator who has a subjective and standard set for those who can afford should bring it to your level because things are wrong for you, then you are begging the issue. I hope you get the point I'm making. So the issue is not about considering that people are not fine. Of course, we reckon that things are not as usual. And the cost on private schools operators are so peculiar. You all recognize that private time, even the online program that we were running, the metro, with reduced fees, parents were not patronizers. Teachers were left to their fate in the private schools, and only God knows how we have failed through to date. So if you evaluate yourself and you think that things are not too fine, it will be weird to insist that I want to sleep in a 5-star hotel, but my money can take me to a 2-star hotel.
Right. So this is the posturing now of these pre-tertiary institutions, these private institutions, and of course, this wouldn't have come to the fore if not for the fact that a lot of parents are crying about the sort of sums that are being demanded from them. Is your association willing, since it appears on the cost front, you are not willing to budge? Are you then looking forward to maybe losing some of your clients in terms of students? Are you willing to take that hit rather than maybe Georgia with some of these parents to ensure that maybe those prices could be looked at? Is that an alternative you're looking at?
Well, in a free market economy, when there is a price variation, certainly some will fall out, some will come in. Okay? So that is not a big deal. Some parents have already moved on. And in fact, let me tell you, you wouldn't have 100% of parents returning to same school, right? People are moving on depending on pocket level, because if I am reducing what would help me maintain safe school environment, then it is about telling me to compromise the protocols that have been instituted. Because whether I like it or not, if I want to operate a private school, I must ensure that we respect the president's directives. Okay? So you cannot do any other thing but by pricing it to a level you meet those protocols that must be instituted. And moreover, you need, if you are a top class school, you need qualified teachers. And they are expensive. Now, it is difficult to have teachers because some teachers have moved on. Some don't even want to come back to the teaching field. So if you don't price well to keep the teacher who has suffered for almost a year because he was in a private school, you may end up having a beautiful structure, beautiful environment, but you cannot have a good teacher to teach the children. So all these things come into play. So, my brother, if you want to eat kinky, I'm sorry, but we bear with parents, and parents should bear with us.
Point well made from that angle. Right before I let go of you, I'd just like to find out, I want to believe you are the helm of affairs of one of these private institutions. Now, what has your preparation been like ahead of today? Would you say you have what it takes to reopen today?
Sure, very well. Well positioned, because, early on, we had, the routine protocols to ensure basic hygiene in school. But as we're talking, even the soap and sanitizer dispensers, we did not go for the manual that you have to push. We had to get automatic. So you fix your hand there, you don't touch it, and it drops in your hand. We've made sure that every point in the school, we have them. The hand washing station, those that we have ensured that you don't use your hand, you use your legs to go through all this. You use your leg, you press, you get water, you press, you get soap, you fix your hand under automatic dispenser, you have soap or sanitizer. So these things are very well expensive. And to have these facilities, you know what? I just moved out of a top school that runs the British system. Even with those that charge so much, they're using the manual stuff The protocols there are so perfect, though, but let me put it, private schools are so ready. The local system schools are trying so hard to ensure that the systems are intact to ensure still teaching and learning.
Well, Mr. Mensah, this is where we'd have to, wrap this up. But thank you very much for bringing us up to speed. Like we said, this is, a collective decision that we've taken as a country. And be you a parent, be you a student, be you a media person like I'm doing now, or even those who are going to be on the ground teaching, we have to ensure that everybody is contributing his or her quota. As a parent, how do you feel? We're going to connect with some people, some of you from across the length and breadth of our country. And we start from the Northeast region, where, in fact, Ilyasu Tanko joins us. Now, Ilyasu, do walk us through what exactly the situation is in the Northeast region, specifically where you find yourself.
Well, Benjamin, I am currently here in Wale, specifically an area called Kukwazo. This is a primary school block. This is a primary school. LA primary school here in Kukwazo in Wale here. And as you can see in the background there, these are the students, the primary school children who have reported today here. And you can see all of them currently not in their face mask. And there's no any sort of observance of the protocols here. I cannot see Veronica Bucketed. In fact, the teachers themselves arriving here are not in nose masks. And I can see in the background there, all these children, they are now cleaning up their campus, readying it for classes. And as you can see, none of them, a lot of them coming here, some of them dropped off by their parents, and all of them are not in their nose masks. And I want to interact with some of the school children, the pupils who have reported here, because I cannot see them having on their nose masks. And I'm trying to find out from them, why have they reported to school like this? Class 6. Class 6. I would like to channel on your nose masks now. You have sanitizer. You nose mask down.
I don't have money to buy.
You don't have money to buy?
Yes.
Did your parent, your father or your mother see you coming out to school like this?
Yes.
So as you can see, a lot of them here are telling me the same story. They came out from their home. Some of them brought here by their parents, but none of them is in nose masks here right now. And like I said, some of their teachers that have cited here are also not in their nose masks. Some of their parents that are bringing them are also not in their nose masks as well. So there's zero. It's a few of them that are coming home with their nose masks, but largely what I've seen here, about 3 clusters of schools. Right now, I'm standing in there, and there's totally zero observance of the COVID-19 protocols here. As we begin school, a lot of them are coming here for the first time, even though they are telling me they are happy to report. But the children themselves, as you can see them clearly, having no knowledge of what is currently happening, and they are here with, some of them are actually telling me that their parents that I've spoken to who have dropped off their children, they are telling me that even though they know that coming to school will not be safe for their children, but they are fed up sitting at home with their children, and that is why they are bringing them to school.
You paint there, Ilyasu, but I'd finally like to find out from you. So yes, at least the mask wearing protocols not being observed for whatever reason, but the other protocols to be observed, the hand washing and the rest, do you at least see some of these logistics available at the facility so that at least the washing of hands and sanitizing can take place, Ilyasu?
Well, as I said earlier, the schools, some of them are just opening their classes, and a lot of their teachers have not reported yet. But I asked one of the students, and they told me, and you can see from the background there, one of the girls just brought out a bucket trying to, they told me that they will be bringing out the bucket, the Veronica bucket, because they have locked them in their offices. And you can see the girl there trying to clean that particular bucket and say from there she will fill those buckets and then they will start using them. But this morning, as I go around, I have not seen those logistics. But like I said, some of them have them in their offices and they are getting them ready.
Well, Ilyasu, thank you very much for bringing us up to speed. Very troubling indeed. I am sure, and I'm not singling out the vice president, but I'm saying that this is his home region, his hometown, and if he's watching, he's going to be very unhappy, especially on the back of all that we've been told about, schools reopening and the measures that are being put in place. But should it take, for example, His Excellency the Vice President to do something before the right things are done? These are parents who have, sent their wards out there without masks. So what must be done? How do we prevent the spread of COVID-19 even as schools reopen? I do not feel it is fair at all to any one of us because we are all at risk. But let's now cross over to the Ashanti region, Kumasi to be specific. Nanaya Ojima is on hand there, and he's going to be telling us about whether indeed the protocols are being observed, what he has observed so far this morning. Nanaya, so what is the picture in Kumasi currently where you find yourself when it comes to the reopening of schools and the observation of the COVID-19 protocols?
Situation or the situation or condition here is different. If you can see around, there are some teachers or there are some people who have been elected or selected as COVID-19 ambassadors, and what they are doing here is that they are to ensure that every student or parent who come into the compound here observes the protocol, sanitizers, hand washing, all the protocols that is supposed to be observed is duly observed on the campus. As you can see in your shot, there's one teacher with the thermometer gun standing by this hand sanitizer gel, and he has other things to ensure that whoever comes to this compound is safe. But this is a sharp contrast in some of the public schools in this area. If you go to some of the public schools, you find a lot of the students coming in without the face mask. I got in touch with one of these students, tried to have a conversation on why he doesn't have the face mask, and he told me he has it, but it's in his bag. And at that moment, he wasn't ready to put it on until he gets to the campus. So he was waiting to get to the school compound before he wears the nose mask and observe the protocols. On this campus, it's different. In the private schools or in the international schools, the situation is different. Everybody in the school is being made to wear the nose mask. As you can see on this campus, social distance is being adhered to. Classrooms, students are being spaced out in these classrooms. So if you come to the private schools, the situation in these schools are different. When I got here, I met this parent. She was very worried until she entered this compound. She was worried, but now, per the protocols she has seen here, according to her, her fears has been allayed. So I have her now, and I'll try to speak to her briefly. Over school, said you
maybe school mo me hu nyoma bebre fi say me dem me ba ni free efie ba na me yem hyehyeme say enu akra sama ye ti free na na do ano no na ayese ha adwen enso me be wura se me ba ha be 640 something me ba na protocols ni nyina egu akwam akola ni ram say na say bia all parents ne kra won hye nose mask ya ma won run inside ana thermometer gun ni nyina ye check akola no na sa oba no temperature no wo higher ya ma wo sa de wa de kofi enti me ba say me hu say de omo si horo omo nsa ye bibia na classroom on kra no wo ye parent aye ma wo nra classroom bia enti me ba no uduru ha teachers na je akola ne ko even me ba no me ba men feed no so me ba no omo me duru anom so mo ma me feed me ba no omo na je ne ko no ko feed ni ma ana 2 me ba no class 4 no classroom no Saturday na beje me ba ni bills, Friday ne so mu spray ha Saturday me ba say bibia dia dance say o me spray ahase enti me ankasa no me ni age pa ena ba konso amesa aka say parent no say ye free fie ba e ma ye meduru ana ya hyenkwala ne nose mask no if you say yare no e kwan mu kra yetimi fa eti my advice nyina ne say omo ba yen hyenkwala ne ofie ansa na ya ba beduru said ye beba no bibi boni bi anye den ensi medamasi.
So she's cautioning all other parents to ensure that their wards observe these protocols before they get into the school, especially the nose mask wearing protocol. The things here are in order, and every parent that I've seen on the campus now is very excited. I have with me here the PTA chairman of the school, and I will speak to him briefly before we talk about other things going on in the Ashanti region. Good morning and welcome to JoyNews. With the protocols and the measures put in place so far, are you impressed as a parent?
We are so much impressed because a lot of work has gone into it. As a PTA chairman, together with the school board and teaching staff, the headmaster, we put in place a lot of things that will make our children safe and sound in this, what you call a learning environment. So as you can see, everything is in order. Far better than most schools, and any parent who comes here is so much happy that they know that their wards are in safe hands and they are in good environment. At the same time too, we are hoping that nothing will befall us. Much as we are doing our part as parents, we are also praying that God will take good care of our children and nothing will befall us. So we've put in place good stuff as much as the COVID protocols is concerned, and you can see that for yourself.
My problem now here is about sustaining such measures in place. You are the PTA chairman and you were part of those who tried putting this together. How do you intend to sustain this whole this whole measure in place?
Yeah. So as far as sustainability is concerned, I think we have put in place measures that is going to take care of that. As far as monetary stuff is concerned, we making sure that we pay for whatever we are using as parents. And we've done our PTA virtual meeting on our platforms. On this Sunday, we are going to have a face-to-face PTA, meeting, and we are going to see how best we are going to sustain this thing. For what is happening here this morning, I believe that any parent who comes around would know that there is a need for us to sustain this for a longer period of time.
Thank you very much. Please, your name?
Emmanuel Bright Wilson.
All right. So that is the PTA chairman of Amdek Montessori School. But what I said, as I said earlier, what's happening here at Amdek is a sharp contradiction from what's happening in most of the public school across the Ashanti region. The problem we are having now is that teachers and others are preventing us from filming on the campus, but I can tell you most of the protocols are not being observed. All you see on these campuses are just Veronica bucket. So most of the students are not wearing the nose mask or the face mask on these campuses. So it's a worrying situation in the public school, most of them in the Ashanti region, but in the private schools, a lot is being done to ensure that these students are safe.
Well, Nanayao, thank you very much for connecting with us from the Ashanti region. And that was a question I was about to pose to you with regard to whether that was reflective of other parts of the Ashanti region, specifically Kumasi. So a lot more work remaining to be done. Let's now cross over to the Bono East region. Anas Sabit is standing by in Techiman. Anas, so what can you report from Techiman this morning with regard to going back to school and the COVID-19 protocols?
Well, I think the situation here isn't that different from what my colleague reported earlier. I am at the Techiman Jingo Early Primary and Senior High School, and the students are here, or the pupils are here in their numbers, all right, eager to go back to the classrooms, their various classrooms. They are currently putting the school in foot. You know, it's been a while since the school closed down. But in terms of the observation of the COVID-19 protocols, here among them, the use of the nose mask. Not even a single student or people have I seen with the nose mask. The teachers themselves, most of them are not in the nose mask, said that I've seen with Assistant Headmaster, and then one or two of the teachers all being in their nose mask. But generally, the people, as young as they are all walking about, playing around, doing all that we are supposed to do without the needed nose mask. As you can see from the current shot taking right now, they are lurching about, doing all sort of activities without their nose mask. I am also yet to come across Veronica buckets posted around, but I'm told the headmaster is here to show up. They have some of this apparatus in their offices that will be placed around shortly. That as it stands, nothing close to the use of almost all the COVID-19 protocols can be set off here at the Sisman Jungle LA School here in the Bono East region.
So by and large, the picture being created across the length and breadth of the country is that, unfortunately, we are not ready for reopening. Because if you listen to the stories coming to us from different parts of the country, some drops in the bucket, very well prepared. But like we're seeing now in Techiman, the preparation is simply not there with even facilitators. I'm talking about the teachers themselves, nowhere to be found. And that is the situation in Techiman in the Bono East region. As you can see in your shot there now, some of the students, tidying up and all of that, and not having observed the protocols, not having washed their hands, not having, sanitized, a lot of them, practically all of them without masks, going about these activities. And in fact, it's not only COVID-19 that we are battling, exposing themselves like this. There could be other diseases they could be subject to, all in the name of going back to school. Going back to school, very important, but the developments now rather tricky. But thank you very much, Anas Sabit. I think the picture is very clear from Techiman what exactly is happening. Let's cross over to Wa in the northern belt of the country, where Rafiq Salam is actually joining us via Zoom. Rafiq, so do paint the picture for us from Wa, what exactly the situation is there. Are the protocols, COVID-19 protocols, being observed?
I can tell you that the protocols in many schools that I have visited in the one municipality of the Upper West region is being adhered to. I was at the oldest school in the one municipality, the one model. Formerly, it used to be known as the one Experimental Primary School. This is a school that was established in 1917, and so the school is about 104 years of age. And I can tell you that I counted close about 400 students, and then only less than a dozen of them are wearing nose masks. And then also in terms of the social distancing, it's also not being adhered to, because the teachers told me that it will be difficult these days to adhere to, because they have just reopened and they have to do a lot of organization, do a lot of tidiness. So if they are cleaning, they clean in groups, and so they're not sure that they can do it especially. And so I haven't seen also Veronica Bakazara, but I'm told that the head mistress is on his way. They will bring them, but they are saying that after today they will do an announcement to the students, to the pupils, to tell their colleagues if they can step in with some of the nose masks while they wait on government to bring the nose masks to them. And so here, I can tell that it's chaotic here in the municipality. It's not being adhered to. But surprisingly, all the teachers that I met there, about 6 of them, all of them were wearing nose masks. And then also, you have people who come to sell food to the pupils. A couple of them also, they are wearing nose masks. And so it's not being adhered to here.
So Rafiq, quite a telling picture there, and we can see the images from here. Of course, the students trying to tidy up their classrooms and all of that, get them back into shape. But again, a worrying situation where indeed we have a lot of them not observing the protocols, not having the logistics needed to actually wash their hands, to sanitize, and most of all, the mask wearing not in a place. Now, Rafiq, I'd like to find out from you. a lot of these students are coming from homes. It appears their parents are not enforcing the wearing of nose masks. What have they been telling you? Is it a lack of the ability to purchase the nose masks? What is the problem?
That yes, some of them, their parents wanted to give them, but they later told them that government said that once they come to school, they will provide these nose masks. So they think that it is not for them. They think that they better leave them to come to school and then collect the nose mask. But this is the case. They came to school, and the school authorities are saying that they haven't received these nose masks yet. And so some of them, they said yes, their parents will have provided for them, but I think that government said that they will provide them. That's why they have allowed them to come to school to pick it from the school.
And so you've heard it from the horse's own mouth. A lot of these parents then are thinking because there are going to be provisions by government, there's no need for them to actually make provisions from home. But if you're a parent, mind you, your child could contract COVID-19 between home and getting to school. So that's a responsibility you must take upon yourself. Don't assume, what if that educational institution does not have, nose masks for the entirety of the population? Then what? So let's do the right thing as parents. We have Natalia Kwanza from Takrady reporting from the Western region. Natalia, what is the picture in Takrady this morning when it comes to the reopening of schools and the COVID protocols? Are they being observed?
Well, when you go to the public schools, they are not being observant. Some schools have provided Veronica buckets with the soap and others. But the students themselves coming in most of the public schools are not wearing the face mask. When you go to the private schools, you see that they are adhering to the protocols. Let's say those even below 5 years, when you get to the school, there are people there assigned to help these children go through the washing of hands and the protocols. When you go to their classrooms, there is social distancing. That's the private schools. And then in the public school, some of them are now cleaning up their schools. For instance, right now I'm at Presbyterian Academy, and here most of the students, I think this is one of the schools that I've seen that most of the students are in their nose mask, and they say they have someone designated for health. So that person is in charge of taking their temperatures and showing them how to wash their hands properly, and then also following them to their classrooms while they are doing the cleaning, showing them how to arrange their chairs so that they can provide some social distancing.
So at least some positive developments from there. Have there been any of these parents who have come to drop off their children, their wards? And what have they been sharing in terms of their expectations as schools reopen?
Well, most of these students came in with their parents accompanied them. For them, they think that they would expect the teachers and then heads of schools to do better in terms of social distance, and they expect that the protocols would be observed. They expect that the teachers should put stringent measures on the student, because for some parents, they say that some of the students can sometimes be a bit what they would think it's not really something serious, but they expect the teachers and then those in charge of the various schools to do their best, because they are not here to monitor them. And then with the cases rising, last week, for instance, Etienne Kwanta recorded 30 new cases within 1 week. So these parents are really worried, but they are hoping that this school will do better when it comes to making sure that the students comply with the protocols.
Natalia Kwanza, all the way from the Western region there. Thank you so very much for connecting with us. The general picture, though, is not one that is very positive, but let's say these are teething problems. We must all do better. Don't you forget, 13 out of our 16 regions have cases, and indeed we are recording about 200 cases per day. Between the last COVID-19 address by the president and, yesterday's, an increment of about 1,000 cases. That is not a very pleasant picture. Let's all be responsible.